six-man rotation last year. But there are some guys back who did get minutes, who were, in practice, were around the program. A couple or three here I wanted to talk about. So Aaron Gray, obviously two-time transferred, so didn't get to play probably the first third of the season. And it really felt like it was, by that point, it was kind of like the season had gone by. Didn't really get his feet underneath him to get kind of a foothold in the
Right.
rotation. And then you look at Derek Vorst. He got a lot of minutes during a decent amount of minutes during the season, and then he played, I believe, almost every game in the NIT. So I know he was getting that
Mhm.
action and getting, some limited time, some cameos, but was getting the time there in the postseason at the end of the year. And then a guy in Jaden Daughtry, who was also retained by you. All three of these guys are coming back. Jaden was, JD was a guy who, had his moments there at Valpo, some other games where you thought, okay, like he's actually a guy that can contribute now as a freshman. What can you say about just kind of having some of those guys come back and like what that means to the program? You're rebuilding, but you're not starting from like completely zero with no main guys coming back.
Right. Yeah. No, you're exactly right. We're not starting from zero. We're starting from about 10%. So, which is good. You got to have something to build on. And, part of it, all three guys, as you mentioned, they did have some moments. But when you got into the season, those guys never had the opportunity to play extended minutes and really play through their mistakes. And I think that's the next step in this process for those guys is they've got to get to a point where we as a staff trust them when they go onto the court that they've got to be able to play through their mistakes and grow and develop. And none of those three really got that opportunity last year, for different reasons. As you mentioned with Aaron being a double transfer, from the summer through the fall, we didn't really think he was going to play anyway. It was going to be a red shirt type deal because of the second time transfer. And then all of a sudden the rule gets changed and your mindset changes and he just never did get comfortable and never got in a rhythm. And I've been really proud of how he's attacked this summer. He's had a great summer. He's trying to teach these young guys and hold them to a standard that we want to be at. And he's really through the first, we're in start of week 4 was today for us in our workouts. And, he's been really a staple of, holding those guys to a standard, and he's put himself in a position, to have a really good year. Derek had a chance to play a lot, especially in the NIT because of just his size. We were playing other high major programs and,
Mhm.
with him being out there and being able to get that experience, that was really good for him. And, I think he adds a different element than what we didn't have last year in, an ability to score around the basket in some post-up situations. So we've got to figure out how to utilize Derek a little bit differently than Robbie. But, at the end of the day, they're both guys that are skilled. They can play away from the basket. And, we need to, Derek to have a really good year for us. And, with JD, he's got all the potential in the world. Offensively, he's a bucket getter and he scores in an unorthodox way at times, but at the end of the day, it's 2 points or it's 3 points or, he gets fouled and gets to the free throw line. So he's able to do those things. What JD has to do is ultimately buy in on the defensive end of the floor, and then also buy into being an everyday guy. And that means, with his conditioning, with his focus and being able to be consistent. And if he's able to do those things, all three of those guys, are going to set themselves up to have a really good season this year.
Coach, can you give me like an expectation for this year? You guys lost your top seven, whether it was the portal or just graduation, and then obviously it's your first year, it's a new staff as well. Can you give me kind of like a mantra or like a
Yeah.
expectation for what you guys got for year one?
Yeah, I think our biggest thing, and I said this in our first team meeting back on June 10th, we want to feel like we have a team that when we get on that bus to head over to Arch Madness, we've got a team that's good enough to compete to cut down the nets on Sunday. That is our goal. Now, what does that look like? I have no idea. Is that a, you know, a 10-win team going over there? Is that a 15, 20, 25-win team going over there? I have no idea. There's too many, pieces to fill in and too many things to go through. But ultimately, our whole deal, especially coming off this past year where, you're, top 30 in the net and you go over there and, you don't get it done and you go play in the NIT, which is a great experience, but ultimately everybody wants to be in the NCAA tournament. So what's the best way to guarantee us to be in the NCAA tournament is to have a team that we feel like is good enough when we step on that bus, heading to Arch Madness to go cut down the nets. And that's our goal from day one. It's not about how many win. Obviously, we want to win every game. There's no question about that. But, to my knowledge, unless I'm wrong, there's been only one team that's won every single game they've played, in the last, 50 years. So you're going to have your ups and downs, but ultimately, are you playing your best basketball when it matters the most? And that's when, for us, it's going to the conference tournament.
And then this isn't Terre Haute news, but I'm sure that this kind of came across your plate recently. What's the bigger story here? Dan Hurley of UConn flirting with the Lakers, him returning to UConn, or the Lakers being turned down by the back-to-back national champion coach?
That's a great question. I think it's the Lakers being turned down. I think that's that's part of it. But I'll say this for Coach Hurley, and I was at Xavier when we played UConn a couple times, and the job that he does with that team is unbelievable. And if you have an opportunity to go for a three-peat, how cool is that? That would be hard to walk away from. And let's face it, let's be real candid. If he does go and have a three-peat, don't you think he'll probably have some NBA offers again? So, I'm
Right.
with him. I would roll the dice and try to go three-peat at UConn. And, I think that's going to be an incredible story. But, I think to the, basketball fan, I think, him going back to UConn is probably the bigger story. But to the general fan, out there, it's, oh my God, he turned the Lakers down. And, but I think if you really dive into it as a sports guy, even on your side of it in the media, going back to UConn, that's pretty cool. That's a big time deal.
He's in the marketplace. You're right. The job should start calling. The NBA offices will probably start calling now that he's revealed his cards, really revealed his hand a little bit, right? Slightly. Coach, first year with the Sycamores this year. I know you probably have some sort of a preference for clipboards, the rock basketballs. Some sort of programming for scouting or for finding people. Anything you can tell me in terms of some of the equipment you use or what you might be implementing, some new whistles, like anything like who you go to for kind of that kind of stuff?
No. I mean, I'm very, very old school. I like the old the NCAA basketballs and the old Fox whistles. They got the nice ringtone to them, and they're nice and loud. So clipboards, I really don't get into the clipboards too much. I think in my 5 years at South Alabama, I think I broke 2 clipboards. So I think I'm doing a pretty good job. I'm under one every other year. I think that's good. So
Okay.
hopefully I won't have to worry about breaking any clipboards this year.
So who's stocking like your whistles, or like is there like a company or like a brand, or like how does that kind of work?
No, I just end up, we go through pace setters and,
Okay.
we get our whistles down there and,
Okay.
I say, hey, I need a whistle, can't find a whistle or whatever. And we'll go down there and get some good whistles.
They're big time fans, I know, of the Sycamore, so that's cool. Coach, it's been great to have you on today. Thanks for stopping by. Best of wishes. We have the first year basketball coach of the Indiana State Sycamores. His Twitter handle is @CoachGraves10.